Good morning. So we're about to get on the road to San Francisco. It's a 7 to 8 hour drive from LA. That's why waking up at 6 a.m. is necessary, unfortunately. We're gonna get a little breakfast and then, like I said, get on the road. Despite the way I look or sound, I'm actually very excited.
Ну, вообще, вот это самое то. Я люблю погоду, когда ты
Hello, my name is Rick and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing some products from The Ordinary. I picked these up from the physical store when I was in San Francisco a couple weeks ago. I also have a few products that I was using before then that I unfortunately don't have the packaging for anymore, but I'm still going to go over the list from their website and talk about some important ingredients, texture, what each product is designed to do or provide you skin benefits wise, and whether I'd recommend them or not. So the first product I'm going to talk about is the Ascorbyl Tetraisopalmitate solution, 20% in vitamin F. This goes for $17.80 on the Ordinary website, and the reason why I shelled out the money for this is because it's an oil-soluble derivative of vitamin C. And the reason why oil-soluble derivatives, why that appealed to me, was because vitamin C needs to cross into the cell in order to be utilized. So the fact that it's oil soluble means that it can cross the lipid bilayer which surrounds the cell. And in that way, just theoretically, it seemed like more worthwhile of a purchase. And if you didn't know what vitamin F was, it's just another way to refer to linoleic acid. I've talked about it briefly in a previous video, but it's basically one of the essential fatty acids we need to survive that we don't produce naturally. We get it mainly through our diet, and our body naturally produces oleic acid, which is rich and more dense. So people that have oily skin tend to also be acne prone because it does clog the pores. But when you put something like linoleic acid, which is naturally kind of thinner, it lets the body know that it doesn't have to produce as much of the oleic acid. So in that way it can help with acne. And with vitamin C products, there kind of has to be some level of trust involved because we can't see what it's doing like at the microscopic level. But as far as the texture and the way it feels on the skin, I like it because I put it on under a sunscreen, and the sunscreens I use tend to be a little bit more mattifying. So putting an oil which moisturizes and provides some emollients and then layering kind of a dry sunscreen on top creates really the perfect texture, as in it doesn't make the skin like really dry or really oily. It kind of meets right in the middle. So I would recommend this derivative of vitamin C because it is oil soluble, which means it could potentially have more efficacy in terms of how far it can penetrate and actually be used within the cell. Another benefit of it being oil soluble is that it can be in a higher concentration without having the stinging that's usually associated with higher concentrations of vitamin C. So if you have sensitive skin, this would probably be a better fit for you. I find the texture to be workable. It's an oil, but it's a really thin oil, so it's not like it's gonna really sit on top of your skin. So yeah, I'd actually recommend the Tetraisopalmitate solution 20% and vitamin F. The second product I'm going to review is the Granactive Retinoid 2% Emulsion. And I specifically chose the emulsion because that's a vehicle I tend to prefer because it doesn't sit on top of the skin, it absorbs, but it does provide some emollients because it's a mixture of oils and water. Granactive Retinoid is it's a derivative of retinoic acid that's supposed to have all the benefits of a retinoid without the irritation. So once again, if you have sensitive skin, this would probably be a good fit for you if you just wanted to start using retinoids, or if you were just looking for like a holy grail product if you have sensitive skin. This retails for $9.80 on the Ordinary website. The texture is great. It's kind of like a light milk. When they said emulsion, I imagined it being more of a thicker paste, but it's actually a very thin, milky texture when you put it on. And one thing I did not expect with this is how hydrating it feels. When I first put this on, I was blown away because usually retinoid products, they're either like in a gel or usually some companies put them in a moisturizer, and the next day like you'd feel really dry. Like usually people you see that use like Tazarac or something, that's a retinoid, and you see that they usually get flaking on their skin and stuff like that. Usually over-the-counter retinoids aren't that strong anyway, so you usually wouldn't see that, but this felt like I was using like a hydrating toner. I was really blown away. And the thing again with retinoids is that there is some level of trust involved, especially with the Granactive retinoid, because there's not a lot of research on it yet. But honestly, I'm 23 years old. Like, people usually start using retinoids at like ages 25 and up. So I can afford to maybe waste a little time on this. Ingredient wise, it has the Granactive retinoid, of course, and then it actually has the regular retinol that's more typical. You see that in over-the-counter products. And it has linoleic acid and then Tasmanian pepperberry, which is supposed to be a soothing ingredient. I actually, in doing the research for this, saw that The Ordinary puts Tasmanian pepperberry in a lot of their products, I think including this one. 3 other products I have it in there, and they tend to be in products that are usually known to be irritating, so like AHAs and stuff like that. So I do recommend it actually, because usually when I wake up after using a retinol product, I have a little bit of dryness kind of all over, especially like around my lips. But with this one, I wake up really with no irritation, no dryness at all. If anything, my skin actually feels more moisturized. So speaking of AHAs, I actually got the AHA 30% and BHA 2% peeling solution. And girl, First of all, they really sell you with this color. It's like a beetroot color. It's like red and pink. It's like in between that? Is that like magenta or something? I don't know, but it's really fun to put on because it looks like you're doing that vampire facial that like Kim Kardashian got, where they like take your blood out and they put it on top of your skin. But this is strong. This is so strong. I put it on. They recommend no more than 10 minutes, and it was hard to get through that 10 minutes because it's not that it burns, it's more of like an itchy feeling that you get that you cannot scratch, and it's really severe. It's almost annoying to use, and because of that, like right when that 10-minute timer hit, I was like, phew. As for ingredients, they did try to include some soothing ingredients, like it has aloe, water, and then Tasmanian pepperberry. It also has hyaluronic acid, and I assume those are all supposed to buffer the irritation that usually comes with an AHA, especially in a 30% concentration, but they really just weren't putting in work because I felt the irritation. And then as for the AHA, it's lactic acid, and the BHA is the common salicylic acid. This goes for $7.20. It's cheap, but if I'm honest, I would not recommend it because it is so harsh. I don't really see a need to be using a product that's so harsh to exfoliate your face. At the most, I'd use it once a week, and I mean, I used it once last week, and if I'm honest, I don't really plan to ever use it again. Another thing with it is that do not put it anywhere remotely near your eye. Like I put it like here, and it burned like all right here afterwards. So if you ever use it, start like down here and like do that, because I had burning sensations like on my upper part of my cheekbone for like 2 days. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend this. My skin didn't look noticeably brighter, or didn't even necessarily feel any smoother. And using a product that's this kind of intense, you'd expect some kind of immediate result, or maybe even some blatant results, but I didn't even see those. So I'd skip that. Instead, I would actually recommend the lactic acid 10% in hyaluronic acid. The reason, well, the most obvious reason is because it's 10% and not 30% of an acid that you're putting on your face. And on top of that, it's more appropriate for daily use, or if you have sensitive skin. Actually, if you have sensitive skin, they have a lactic acid 5%. I'd start with that, or maybe if you're just starting out with AHAs, I would start with the 5% as well. But I'd been using AHAs in the Glacier toning solution, so my skin was already pretty used to consistent exposure to AHAs. And I really have nothing bad to say about it. It's like a opaque solution that's really watery. It obviously has the hyaluronic acid in it, and then it also has the Tasmanian pepperberry, which we see as a running theme throughout these products. It goes for $6.80, and honestly, for a product like this, that's kind of a steal because it provides you with some nice light, potentially daily exfoliation without really any downsides. I did feel a little bit of irritation, but nothing near that 30%. If you've ever used the Glacier toning solution, it's almost the exact same feeling. It's like a sharp pain, but not a strong sharp pain. Like it's very tolerable. So I would actually recommend this. I think this is a fantastic product. Okay, this one I have notes for, and that's because there's a fair amount of chemistry that needs to be explained in order to understand what this product is supposed to do. This is the EUK 134, and it's in a 0.1%. It's essentially an antioxidant, and the way it works is that there are molecules called superoxide dismutases in our skin and catalases. And EUK 134 is essentially a synthetic version of that, or a mimetic version of that. So it's supposed to do exactly what those molecules are supposed to do, and they're already present in our skin, so this is essentially just applying more of it. And anything that ends in ACE, A-S-E, at the end of something, usually in biology, it usually refers to an enzyme. And enzymes modulate the progression of a chemical reaction. And the reaction we're talking about is when UV radiation comes in contact with our skin. The photons from that radiation interact with oxygen and create a free radical. And What superoxide dismutase, or in this case we're talking about EUK 134, does is that it speeds up the degradation of that free radical into oxygen and hydrogen peroxide, and then eventually hydrogen peroxide into oxygen and water. So in that way, EUK 134 can be thought of as the first line of defense against UV damage, because it works to dismantle the initial process, which eventually becomes problematic for our skin. And once again, there's not a lot of research on EUK 134, but the research that has been done has been kind of promising. There is a certain level of trust involved in this product as well, until more research comes out proving well, in science you don't prove anything, supporting its efficacy. What I plan to do with this is layer it on top of another antioxidant. You can't use this actually with a vitamin C because you can't put it with anything that's a strong acid. So I'm actually looking into using Q10 instead because it's a protein. The EUK 134 goes for $8.80 on the Ordinary website. It's a really simple formula, and it's a formula you'll see common with the Ordinary, and it's just propanediol and the active ingredient, and in this case is the EUK 134. Propanediol is a solution that is really good at housing a lot of active ingredients, and you're going to see it a lot throughout the Ordinary's products. In relation to sun protection, I actually got their mineral UV filters SPF 30 with antioxidants. The antioxidants that they're mainly talking about in here is actually going to be a derivative of ferulic acid, and I was actually kind of surprised to see that there's not really any other antioxidants in here, so I feel like the name is a little bit misleading. The main filters are going to be zinc oxide at 14.03% and titanium dioxide at 5.44%. I'm not gonna let y'all waste your time. This leaves a cast. Like, I'm white. And this made me look like a ghost. I was very surprised. If you're fairer than me, it can probably work. It'll probably work under makeup. Honestly, once I put it on, the texture seemed like foundation would lay really nice over it, but I literally put it on, walked around for like 10 minutes, and then took it off because I had to go to work, and I was not about to go to work looking like that. Okay, I'm really close so y'all can get like right in this. So this is what it looks like coming out. There's like a slight tint to it, but barely. And I'm just gonna put it on my big ass forehead. It's a good thing I showed. Because if you grow facial hair and you've tried to use sunscreen on your face, especially a mineral one, you know how annoying it is. And usually they say to use like a little bit, but you're really just supposed to slather on sunscreen to reach the SPF that's on the label. And don't forget your net. I also have a little bit of hemp seed oil on under this, so it might look a bit more dewy than it actually is. So right off the bat, I don't recommend it simply because the practicality of it isn't there. Once again, if you wore it under makeup, I can see how this can be used. It does have some good ingredients. It has algae extracts, and it has some sugars that act as humectants to draw moisture to the skin. It has allantoin and urea as well, but honestly, the way it looks kind of makes those beneficial ingredients not worth it. It goes for $9.70, but even though it's cheap, I just wouldn't. Like, I looked like a ghost no matter what lighting. I don't wear makeup, so I wouldn't be able to use it under a foundation. That's the only way I'd recommend actually using it, is under a foundation in which you're going to be covering what this looks like on your face. But yeah, I can't recommend this actually. And finally, we have the Azelaic acid suspension, 10%. And this is actually my second bottle of this. I love this. The first time I used it, I put it all over my face because there's not really clear direction on how to use it, but I quickly found out that that's not the most efficacious way of using it because it's a really dry matte formula. So there's like no slip to it. Wherever you put it, that's essentially where it's going to stay. The way I found is the best way to use this is as a spot treatment. So if you have a pimple somewhere, just get like a bead of it and just tap it right on top. Whenever I've used this overnight, the next day the pimple has either stopped growing or has shrunk. And I was actually really surprised at how it managed to minimize my pimples. So azelaic acid is an acid, so it is going to exfoliate a little, but it's actually produced by yeast that we naturally have on our skin. It's anti-inflammatory and it actually attacks abnormal melanocytes, which are the molecules that produce pigment in our skin. So that's going to help with hyperpigmentation and rosacea and just overall skin tone. It's also antibacterial. So it actually manages to attack the bacteria that invades our pores and causes the acne. It is also good at preventing hyperproliferation. Proliferation is just a term that describes cell growth or cell birth, I guess you could say. And what happens is when that's overactive in our skin, it clogs the pores because there's too dense of a layer of cells growing in the skin, which leads to acne. So all around, azelaic acid is good as an acne fighter. It's $7.90 and to me worth every penny. So I would recommend this product. So altogether, I would recommend the Ascorbyl Tetraisopalmitate solution 20% in vitamin F, the Granactive Retinoid 2% emulsion, the UK 134 0.1%, the lactic acid 10% and hyaluronic acid, and the azelaic acid suspension 10%. So that's going to be all for today's video. If there's any other ordinary products you'd like to see reviewed, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Thank you for stopping by. Feel free to subscribe and like if you'd like to see more videos like this. I have a lot more coming, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.